Hey, everybody, Kevin here with Pursuing Pixels, and welcome back to another edition of Save It for the Cast, and you know the drill by now. As always, we're in just a little bit here going to kick the ball over. This week it's just Randall and John, which last week, shout out to both of them for holding down the fort and talking some video games while I was out. Before they got around to recording the episode proper, they dove into a little bit of some first impressions on Lonely Mountain Snow Riders, talk a little intelligent systems. John gets into some Monster Hunter World, I think, or Monster Hunter in general. A little bit of a collage episode. I just took a few snippets. It was super fun to edit that episode back. It was the first time ever, obviously, that I wasn't on a proper episode. And therefore, the first time ever that I was like editing an episode that I wasn't there for the conversation. So it was just really cool to kind of like go in totally or pretty much blind. I knew what the guys were planning on talking about, and John was kind enough to send me over some notes and everything and keep things organized and everything, so it really made it easy on my end. Although that said, on the back end of the episode here in particular, I feel like the proper episode worked out fine audio-wise, but on the back end here on the chunks of conversation, there's a little bit of like, I don't know if they're like appliances going or some kind of fans, or it honestly just sounds like there's like an airplane flying overhead on Randall's audio for a chunk of the conversation here and there. So apologies for that stuff and whatnot. But again, just shout out to John and Randall for holding down the fort and really had a blast editing that episode. And we'll get to some more of their chit chat, Outer Wilds even in the mix there, and Idle Games, Stanley Parable, NBA 2K, just all over the map. We'll get to that in just a little bit here. But as always, I'm going to start things off with some of the stuff that I've been playing as of late. And I've been doing a ton of video gaming lately. I've been getting back into live streaming a little bit again. I was planning on just kind of like rattling off a few things that I've played on streams lately, but then I've also been diving into a few things a little more significantly over the last few days, both on streams and otherwise. In a couple weeks here, John and I are going to be talking about Metroid Prime Remastered, so I won't really get too into that. But I played like the first, maybe 45 minutes or so, and then hopped on for a stream for like maybe another hour or so. So I'm making some decent headway with that game. I've actually been surprised, and I'm just going to be repeating myself on the episode proper coming up in a few weeks here, but for most of this. But like I've been surprised just how much of the game I've remembered from the GameCube. I never beat it, but I guess I got a little bit further into the game than I ever thought I did, because again, I've only about maybe 2.5 hours in max so far. But really have remembered everything, like obviously not remembering every last element, like I'm still getting lost like I do in every single Metroidvania game, whether I guess they're in first person or, they're a traditional 2D side scroller, but been really having a good time with that one. And I'm not going to be the first one to say this, obviously. We might have even said it when John and Randall talked about this one on the podcast, but man, is this one of the better looking games on Switch just across the board. It's just such a flashy, stylish remake, but I love that it's just like to the, other than the different control schemes and stuff like that they've updated and modernized. And then they do also offer like basically going back to the original control scheme. Obviously, you're not playing with a traditional GameCube controller, although I think they did make those adapters to hook up GameCube controllers for playing Smash and stuff like that. So I guess you probably theoretically could. But I'm not 100% sure. But being someone who never played this game a whole ton, like I don't have the controls baked into my brain from the GameCube era. It's been kind of a no-brainer to just play with the, standard, at least, when you boot up the game here, the standard controls are like the modern twin stick controls. And that's been really nice to play. But it's been kind of like an interesting way, like to have a twin stick. Again, I'm just repeating myself here, but to have a twin stick shooter first person shooter that plays with twin stick controls, but that also has a lock-on mechanic is just really kind of interesting. At the risk of just repeating myself ad nauseum here, I'm just going to leave it there for the Metroid Prime Remastered stuff. But I'm just really glad that I finally took the initiative to pop that one in. And then another game that I'm glad I took the initiative to fire up, and I'm also about 2.5 hours into this one. I actually just got done playing a about hour-long session here and just starting to get lost a little bit, or at least not 100% sure where to go. I actually just died on purpose to just kind of reset my save, and because I actually think I might have soft-locked myself. But I'm talking about The Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap here, and I'm playing this on the Game Boy Advance, like Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass. which shout out to Randall for having me on his family plan to be able to soak up all those goodies along with like the Mario Kart 8, DLC stuff and all that. Or expansion pass or whatever they call all that stuff, season pass. Who knows? But nonetheless, yeah, I've been really having a good time with the Minish cap, and it's really, really puzzle heavy. It's been a long time since I've played a top-down 2D, traditional Zelda game. I guess, I played a little bit of the Link's Awakening remake on Switch, but really not all that much, especially with the performance issues. Not that it was anything crazy, but enough to just be like, hey, this is really just mostly a good-looking, relaxing game, and I wish I could just soak it up without the stuttering and the frame rate issues and stuff like that, which that stuff usually doesn't bother me a ton. And to be fair, when I'm playing Minish Cap here on the Switch with the emulation, like sometimes when you're like going in from one screen to another, the audio will make like a little like pop sound, like real quiet, but enough to where like I'm guessing if I was playing on the original hardware that wouldn't be happening. But nonetheless, like the pixel art is just absolutely amazing. And this is another game that was a tag team effort between Nintendo and Capcom. And the reason I say another game is I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe Capcom also had a hand in the Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons games on the Game Boy Color. I might be wrong about that because as I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, I'm not 100% sure. But nonetheless, it's just kind of cool to play a Zelda game that just has a little bit different of a flavor to it. The main kind of gimmick here is that you can shrink down into like a super miniature, version of yourself and talk to these Minish people or these different characters in like kind of like a, kind of like Smurf style village where they're like living in little mushrooms or but you can always see it on the overworld or within the, I guess maybe they'll come into play within the dungeons and stuff like that as well. But for the most part, like you'll see like, oh, here's like a little crevice in the terrain that I think I'll be able to sneak through, like the one I just got through just a minute ago, right before I jumped on to record this here. Like I transformed into the small version of Link and then had to go through this little like gap in the rocks or whatever, and then it like kind of zooms in and goes back to the normal camera view, but obviously everything's like huge, if there's any, the enemies are normal size, but if you see any like leaves or twigs and stuff like that, like they're massive on the screen, and just Honey, I Shrunk the Kids style. And like the raindrops are falling and they're basically like, hey, just if you get hit by one of these, it's basically like getting hit by a rock and whatever. And I just picked up the I forget what it's called now, the grip ring or something like that. I was gonna say the Ring of Power, but I think that might be something different, or it may be a different thing in different Zelda games. But nonetheless, this allows me to now kind of like scale the walls and rock climb, which is maybe how I soft locked myself. I might have climbed a little too high for my own good here, but I'm basically trying to find a blacksmith at this point and upgrade my sword so that I can presumably do a little more damage. Like it's interesting, like you can't even break the pots in this game with your sword, at least not yet. I have to like pick them up and throw them, but there's just some cool mechanics like that are a little bit different than your traditional top-down Zelda game. Like not that they're doing anything crazy, but just like, I don't know. And it does have that a little bit of like the retro tedium of like, okay, you only have your 2 different item slots or different things that you can equip basically. So you can unequip your sword, so it doesn't have to be that. But like you got your sword, your shield. Right now I have like a wind gust jar that I can like suck up enemies or suck up rocks or pull in projectiles. Or there's like a really cool mechanic with like these mushrooms that you can like pull back and then while you're gripping onto them, like let go and then fling yourself over a gap. And then in some cases you can use that gust jar to like pull the mushroom towards you if it's like over on the other side of a gap, if you're close enough to it. Just really, really cool stuff. Like I said, maybe it's just been a little while since I played a 2D Zelda, top-down traditional game in this vein, but like I just feel like it's a little more puzzle heavy than I remember. Obviously you're solving puzzles and like working your way through the mazes and stuff like that, and it does feel a little bit more like things are gated a little more like strictly, like okay, you have to do this thing and then you have to do this thing, but maybe they always were like that and I'm just kind of misremembering. But another game that I fired up on a stream recently, actually right after I played Metroid Prime Remastered, was Wave Race 64. And man, I haven't played that game in such a long time. And it was, number one, crazy to me how like immediately just everything came back to me, like the soundtrack, the announcer, just every single element of the game, and obviously the gameplay and stuff like that too, and just took a little bit of tweaking because obviously that joystick on the Nintendo 64 feels pretty different than playing with like a Pro controller on the Switch. That 64 joystick just had a little more like spring to it, where the steering on like the water, it almost felt a little bit better, especially if you had like a nice fresh N64 controller, not one that's been ravaged by a bunch of Mario Party play over the years. But yeah, I've really even like playing Paper Mario and being able to like fling the hammer back and release it, and like it just felt so good to release it and have it fling forward and smash the hammer. Like that doesn't quite feel the same when you're playing it on these modern consoles. It works the same, but it just doesn't feel quite the same. But yeah, I'm just really glad that I fired up Wave Race 64 again, because it just felt so good once I dialed in the controls, because you can customize each wavecraft or whatever, or jet ski. But it just feels so good to ride those waves and, thread the needle between the buoys and stuff like that. And every time you miss one, the announcer's just like antagonizing you, like, better luck next time. I guess that's more like at the end of a race, or almost had it. Like there's just so many good little, I guess, barks from the announcer, and just the game just feels so amazing to play even still. It really made me, kind of has me pining for them to bring back Wave Race on, I guess, the Switch 2 at this point, if they were to ever bring it back. But man, I would really love to see another game in this series. And then I guess one other quick game to give a shout out to is UFO 50. I've been just dipping back into that one again and again. And one game that I probably mentioned maybe in the early days when I first picked up UFO 50, just when I was kind of rattling off a few of the games here and there, that it's actually the first game I've like properly beaten and gotten a quote unquote gold cartridge on, is Mooncat. And this is one of the weirder games in the collection that definitely feels a little more in the vein of like a Game Jam game. And I don't say that by any means to like disparage the game at all. I said that a lot when I was first talking about the UFO 50 collection, and basically saying like, I feel like a lot of these games feel like post-jam updates to like Game Jam style games. And I love that about it, that they're not, there's not too much meat on the bones for a lot of these, where you can beat them in a, single sitting or whatever. But Mooncat, yeah, you can definitely beat this one in a single sitting. It probably only took me 20, 30 minutes or so, maybe a little bit more. But the conceit of this game, it's basically a, puzzle precision platformer light. But basically, any button on the D-pad will have your character walk to the left, and any of the face buttons, or any of the two face buttons in this case, with the UFO 50 controller, will have your character walking to the right. And then you press both of them at the same time to jump. And then if you're airborne, you can press both of them again to do like a ground pound. So you can really start like chaining moves together off of like bouncing off of enemies. And it's just such fantastic stuff. It's really fantastic level design, the pixel art, the music. I just loved every single element of this game. And yeah, I just can't get enough of the UFO 50 collection. I keep coming back for more and more and keep discovering new gems, one after another. But yeah, I think I've done more than enough rambling here. I'm sure UFO 50 will come up again. I've also been playing some Monimals and Tinykin, which I've been loving the heck out of. So those games will probably come up on an episode proper. But yeah, at the risk of just rambling on and on here, I'll leave it there for this week. And until next week, and I'll kick the ball over to John and Randall here. And then until next week, we'll catch you then, and take care.
Intelligent Systems made Cubivore.
Oh my god, we've never talked about Cubivore on... Fuck.
Even back in the day, I was like, Cubivore is too expensive, and it was probably like $60 used or something. There's no way I could buy that.
That's one of my biggest regrets, is not picking up a copy of Cubivore like at GameStop, or probably at the time Babbage's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Games.
Oh yeah. Yeah, nobody is out there trying to buy Cubivore, even though Atlas published, so they made like 5 copies. So, yeah, no, I've watched one of my buddies play that during late GameCube era, and I'm like, wow, this is nonsensical, but I need to see more. This is great.
Isn't it kind of whatchamacallit? Katamari or like the
Kinda, yeah.
but the actual what is it called? Eats Munchies? No, that's a completely different series. The Munchables.
Oh.
Did you ever play the Munchables?
No.
So the Munchables was a Wii game, and
I've remembered this art.
Yeah, it was great. It was actually I mean, great in the John Hines oeuvre of loving a game that is kind of jank and unpolished, but like has a really satisfying
game?
What?
Physical game?
Oh yeah.
Or did you download it?
Oh no, I got a physical copy of the Munchables.
What the hell? How did this not fully make it on my radar? I was so into the Wii era.
Yeah. But like, yeah, it's all you do is you're just either one of these two, like the orange guy or the pink girl, and like you just eat food and then you just get bigger and then you can eat bigger food. And it's like,
okay.
But like that's kind of the cubivore mechanic, isn't it? You just keep eating stuff until you get bigger. Yeah, you get bigger and then you eat stuff and you continue to get bigger and then you can eat the bigger stuff.
Wow. Munchables.
It was good. It was let's see. So that was Bandai Namco, but
oh my gosh.
It felt similar in controls to like De Blob, where it's using the nunchuck and like you don't really need to use the motion controls, but you do it when you need to like do whatever special move or whatever.
Yes.
Like, kind of the Super Mario extra jump or whatever, but God, there was some really good like
wow. Yeah, this review says, like Klonoa or Zack and Wiki, the Munchables proves that kid-friendly Wii game doesn't necessarily mean it's not worth your time.
Interesting.
Fans of Katamari or your off-kilter action games take note. This game's surprisingly awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the Klonoa connection? But yeah, I guess the
art style, I guess, primarily, maybe, kind of.
Like, it's just, you eat stuff. You eat stuff and you get bigger. Like, you don't need to have a great fleshed out story for it to be fun.
Oh, look at all the aliasing on these screenshots. Wow.
Yeah. It's definitely from an era.
480i, baby.
Oh yeah, God. I started playing Monster Hunter World again because I managed to convince one of my older friends to get it. And like, man, there's some real I need to figure out how to optimize the graphics on that because it looks terrible. Like it really.
I'm assuming you're playing on Steam Deck, right?
I am playing on Steam Deck, but like,
can you load mods in? Like, there's got to be some people that have modded the shit out of the graphics on these games that are have such a following, right?
And when I first got the Steam Deck, I didn't have a dock to like put it onto the TV, so I was only playing it handheld, so I was specifically playing so many things like just in a way that I could run it on the handheld, and like
totally
also it was just like eating through battery like nothing else.
Yeah, Game Gear style. Just like the
hottest like running system in my hands.
Like, yeah, for sure.
Even when I play it docked, like it still is like, whew, it's not quite PS4 levels, but it is running real. That fan is going full blast.
I kind of believe it though, because it's not like these games are super duper optimized for the Steam Deck. I mean, now that it's successful, maybe you're getting more of that, but mostly it's just like, yeah, we'll make it run on this thing, but it's going full bore. It's not like hyper optimized for battery life or anything else. It's just like, it can run it. Let's go, baby.
So I don't really have enough to like actually talk about Lonely Mountains. What is it? I can't fucking remember.
Ski game.
Lonely Mountain ski game. But yeah, Snow Riders. Lonely Mountains Snow Riders. Doesn't roll off the tongue. Come on.
No.
Come on, German developers.
And you just want to say downhill again because downhill could have been equally descriptive here, right? Yes.
But that is also a game that I think will eventually be optimized for Steam Deck. because I did manage to get past the tutorial section, and those particle physics of snow sure make that frame rate chug.
Oh, no.
What are you playing it on?
Xbox, on the Series X. Yeah, and it's nice. It is real nice. And it was just a Game Pass game, and I'm like, oh nope, yep, this is the thing. This is it again. Here we go. And I'm just like, it feels so good.
Yeah.
I think it might even be optimized for Series X, where it's like higher frame rate too, which is a big deal for a game like that.
Hell yeah. I mean, like, so yeah, I did like the first couple runs, and I was playing it kind of like the free rider mode until I didn't even realize until like I was getting to the end, and I got like all the achievements, like finish a run without crashing. And I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of how I play the regular like Lonely Mountains downhill. But I still need to like
just taking it easy.
Yeah.
You're not risk reward.
Yeah,
with Lonely Mountains cutting corners.
I'm never gonna crash. I'll take the long way. I can get the speed one later. Like,
get it all the first time, aka try over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
God, I do love the like the first crash is free. Basically, like any crash you do on the first checkpoint doesn't count.
Yes,
so I can be as aggressive as possible on the first one.
Yes, because old games 100% did not think of those sort of quality of life things. Just like, oh no, restart the whole thing and it'll take a minute to load it every time.
It's just a nice little. Oh god, I love those games.
Me too.
It's fun, but like, there's not enough content for me to like have anything other than it's just nice. It's like, fair. Like honestly,
and Kevin will be into it probably, so it makes sense to kind of hold it for that purpose. Right?
Like I assume they're gonna have more runs than just blue and black. Like I think they're gonna probably add more at some point, or have DLC or some way. But like as soon as I played it, I was like, I really hope that they add like some DLC to Lonely Mountains Downhill, where they have one of these, because they're so great. They're really good. They're really good games.
The gameplay is just, it's so perfectly designed. It just feels so good. It's so immediate and it's so responsive. It's just like,
do you do 360 controls or tank controls?
I think it didn't, like, it definitely recognized based on like what it was asking me to do, and it chose one. And I don't think they called it tank controls. They called it something like left, right, or something like that.
Yeah,
like, and that's what I did. So I guess that's tank then, I suppose, right?
Yeah, that's what I like. I just feel it feels better to me to do the tank controls.
Yeah,
like,
it felt intuitive to me. Like just like. That's how I did Lonely Mountains Downhill too. I just controlled it the same way, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, we know what you want to do. Here you go." Mm-hmm. And it was just like relative to. It just made sense to me, like the way that my character is facing or whatever. I'm just gonna. I don't know. Tank controls are hard to explain.
Yeah, it's the whole control scheme is kind of hard to explain. Other than just play it, you'll figure it out. You got it.
In kind of like a Tony Hawk sort of way, almost.
Yeah.
Like there's just a feel to it.
Yeah.
It's just good.
Love that game. All right. So we don't need to talk about that on the episode. Apparently, so Mikey has been playing a lot more. He started the DLC of Outer Wilds, and I've still not gotten any further in Outer Wilds because I'm a big dummy, and that game is too hard.
Didn't you beat it?
No.
Oh.
No, it's so fucking hard. It is.
Wow.
Like, it's great. Every time I get to a new like mechanic or like figure out a puzzle in it, I'm like, wow, this is the greatest game that's ever been made. And then I get stuck on a thing and I was like, I need to put this down because this game made me feel stupid.
Oh man, I know this, but sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's just like I've just fucking burned all day and used up my brain, and these other 5 things happened, and now game wants to put me through the ringer too.
Oh yeah,
and I just don't have it in me, you know.
That is quite literally why I'm playing idle games right now, is because, I kind of need to just see number go up, because the rest of my life is kind of going in a place that I'm not super thrilled about. So
correct.
It's super nice to just see, wow, that's a really big number.
Yes, it is. It's nice. Yeah, you're just feeling successful with those numbers.
But one of the idle games I've been playing is, we'll get into it specifically, but Mikey was looking at my Steam history and sees oh, what's John playing right now? And great moments from both independently from Mikey saying, he's wow, this is a John ass game. It's just menus and text. And then DJ played the Stanley Parable. And he's this is a John game. I was yeah, you both are right.
Yes. Still want to get back to, I still want to, well, not get back to, I still want to boot that game at some point also.
It's so good.
I play NBA 2K. And even though there's no point, I bumped up the difficulty, so I feel I was courageous that way. Oh. Have you ever done that in Monhun? Do you bump up the difficulty because you played so many iterations?
I guess what I start doing is I start learning a new weapon. And that's kind of what I've been doing in this current run of World, is that I looked and I was oh, I've not played Switchblade at all in this. And God, that was the other fucking thing about playing World, is that every time that I come back to a game in the Monster Hunter franchise, and after I've played another version for another however many dozens or hundreds of hours, and I come back to it and I opened up World, which I've put over 100 hours into it, and I'm I didn't understand how decorations work. I just didn't I'm looking at my build and it's this is dog shit. I played 100 hours with this terrible build, and I just was I don't get this. This is a mechanic I don't understand. And now that I've played other games for another 100 hours each, I can go back as good God, all right, let's optimize these. Let's make every one of these loadouts and just make the game so much easier.
Wow.
There's always...
Well, that's kind of nice too, though, right? Because you did it the hard way first.
Yeah.
You grinded it, and now you get to go back, and you're nah. Yeah. I got this.
But at the same time, it's just
I got back.
What was I doing? What did I spend so much time doing? It's you look and it's I dug through a wall, but I was using a hammer and chisel when I had a jackhammer. It's what was I doing?
There's no instructions with the jackhammer. You went with what you knew.
No, there's actually explicitly instructions. I just refuse to read it because it's all just text.
Oh, yeah, no. Nobody on this podcast is going to blame you for that. So don't worry about that at all.
God. But
you know what? I'll talk about Newtopia. How about that?
Ooh, okay.
I'll talk about Newtopia. I don't think I've done that yet on the podcast, have I?
I don't believe so.
Let's look on the master list. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I think I've kind of kept that in my back pocket.
Yeah, how do you spell that?
I'm a liar.
Ooh.
There it is. That was 2023. I didn't goddamn play it then. I must have just mentioned it offhand.
Yeah. It might have been even
on the Annie. What did I must have mentioned it. I wonder in what context.
Oh, probably talking about the PC engine and turbo graphics.
Yeah.
I can guarantee. Oh yeah. Newtopia is widely regarded as a clone of the popular Nintendo game Legend of Zelda. Oh, hell yes. No, let's get into. Yeah, I can vaguely. I don't know. Maybe I'm making up a conversation in my head, whereas I could see us talking obliquely about this game.
Oh yeah, no, we can. And as someone that was also well versed in the Wii era, you know that TurboGrafx had a large presence on the Virtual Console, and this was kind of a big deal then when it dropped too. In that regard, I would say.
Well, that's how a ton of those games even gotten, I don't know, in the I would say in the cultural like consciousness, but it's maybe just my own, is like when I first was made aware of most of these games.
Oh no, I mean really on a deeper level, same with me. Even as someone that had retro gaming as and collecting as a hobby, it was just like, oh no, I really do need to take this other system more seriously now that these games are accessible to me to buy at $7.99 or whatever. No, not even. I think they might have been like $5.99 for most of those digital games on Virtual Console for Turbo.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, these are actually sweet. This is exactly what I want. It's enhanced NES. Let's go. This works for me.
Oh yeah. All right. Should we clap? 50.
We probably should.
3 minutes. I'm at 53:47.
54:38. Shall I clap first? Should I count my own claps? Where's Kevin?
You take it away, bud.
All right. 1, 2, 3.